Storytelling and selling, one of the same when it comes to recruitment. And sitting down with Head of Talent Acquisition from Atoss Software, Francois, we talk a little bit more about how we can uncover our own company's story and how we can utilize that story to sell to one active candidates as well as headhunted candidates, and the slight nuanced differences when doing both. Here is a little bit from what you've got coming up.
Most job descriptions nowadays are pretty standardized. Yeah. So job description will say what they already know. You know, they do the job. I think people are interested about what is it really about? You know, what is this company? What is the context? What is the challenge? What can I achieve? What makes it special?
Yeah.
What makes it appealing? Every company will try and tell you we're the best, we have the best products, we're growing, we want to be top of the world. Everyone tells the same. So it's about what really makes, and I think there's a big element of honesty about this. You know, it's not about lying, overstating. I think it's just being very, very clear about the elements of the stories and the pros and cons, and again being very honest about this. You know, what makes my company right now different than others. It's not about saying we're better than anyone else, we're better than bigger software company. We have pros and cons, and dear candidates, this is what I have to tell you today. This is really what it is, and these are the reasons why this opportunity is great.
Drawing on experience from Apple, Microsoft, Oracle, and now Atoss, Francois is a fantastic guest to have on this platform and a returning listener, which is always very nice. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had. And please, if you are interested in taking the conversation further with him, connect with him. He has a massive, massive benefit to the podcast, especially the fact he recorded on his birthday. So thanks again, Francois. Enjoy. Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by a specialist who has over 2 decades of extensive recruitment experience. This individual has enjoyed both the external agency hiring as well as internal talent acquisition. Their impressive career includes contributions to several maybe well-known companies from Microsoft and Oracle, Apple and Tesla. But currently, he's head of talent acquisition for the team at Atoss Software. They're driving the growth of a team that proudly supports various high-profile clients from Deutsche Bahn, Sixt, and Lufthansa, all known for their high standards and expectations. So when you're ready, grab your favourite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcoming today's guest, the head of talent acquisition at Atoss Software, Francois Picaud. So thank you so much for joining.
Hey, good morning, Eden. How are you doing?
I'm very well. And by the way, I do genuinely mean this. Thank you so much for joining me, especially on your birthday. So thank you. I mean, it's
Yes.
even a better time. Who thought someone would
Yes.
spend their actual birthday with me recording an episode?
I know. Thank you very much for having me. This is my birthday present for you. You know, I'm a big fan of your podcast. I've been listening to it for a year now. Over a year, actually, listening to it on my way to work in the Munich Underground. And so, yeah,
Nice.
It's a pleasure to be on the other side. Thanks very much.
No, I appreciate the kind words. And look, before we kick off any episode, hopefully then you're familiar to this. There's always that one question we like to ask everyone just to kind of get the idea. So we're still sticking with what we've been speaking about the last few episodes. So from your perspective, Francois, what do you feel makes a successful or a high-performing talent acquisition team?
There are many reasons, and the obvious ones, you need skills, you know, you need people who love what they do, etc. I think to me, the most important thing is having a team that is actually a team. A team made of team players, and this collusion and this working together, wanting to achieve something together. I think this is actually what makes the difference. Might be slightly different in an agency environment that you know, because at the end, you know what it's like. It's about billings and individual performance and how much money you're making for the business. But certainly in a corporate world like mine, this is what makes a difference, and this is what makes a team of great business partners. It's the ability to be there for each other, to cover up, to help others, seniors, help juniors. People know they can speak to colleagues when they get stuck, when they have difficulties. They cover up for each other if someone's sick, too busy, whatever. So I think, to me, this is the essential
cohesion
thing.
Between team members makes the success
totally,
of that team.
Totally. The ability to want to achieve something together. Yeah.
I still think, by the way, that bleeds quite nicely into the agency side. But you're absolutely right. Like, a lot of the time, we're agency recruiters are solo recruiters. But if I take Peritus and what my team, my business partners, we do is we go to companies and we go in with one option. It might be a data hire, but we expand out, so we cover various things of that organization. And we do that, I think, with most of our companies. It's rarely do we just have one role, one project and move on. But I do absolutely see the cohesion part, being part of the same team, external, internal, but being part of the same shared vision of the company is super important. So part of that comes into what we're going to talk about today. When we first spoke, you mentioned, you want to talk about storytelling. And that's kind of the title. If anyone's clicked on this and said, oh, what's that about? So let's just set the scene. When we talk about storytelling and hiring, what do you mean?
To me, this is the essential skill, the core skill that I think any recruiter needs to have. At the end of the day, what are we judged on? And regardless of the fact that whether you're working for an agency or in a corporate world for a company, you're judged by your ability to generate good candidates. Yeah, that's the essence of our job. That's what we paid for. Yeah. So you need to be able to find and convince good candidates to run for this job, to go to interviews, and hopefully help them all the way to the finish line. So how do you do this? You need to be able to sell the job, the company. You need to attract people and interest them.
So the storytelling for you is selling, essentially.
Yes, selling. And it's about, we'll go into details, but it's about how do you set the scene? What do you tell people? How do you make this story? And how do you make this specific job and your company, how do you make it more attractive, more appealing to people?
Why
that
then
is
that?
What...
I was going to say, why do you feel that's the standout skill? Why is that one of the most important elements for us as recruiters, talent acquisition team members, above all else?
It's most job descriptions nowadays are pretty standardized. Yeah. So, if I call you to sell you a recruiter job or a head of talent acquisition, you know what this is about. This is your job. It's the same for a financial controller, a developer, whatever function. So job description will say what they already know. They do the job. I think people are interested about what is it really about? What is this company? What is the context? What is the challenge? What can I achieve? What makes it special? Yeah. What makes it appealing?
I love that because it moves it away more from what I call conveyor belt recruitment, which is just call, just get through the list and move on. And it comes back to the human side, which is, if we take a look at last year and AI and all that conversation, everyone's screaming out for that human touch.
Yes,
the story
totally.
That's kind of what we're trying to get back to.
100%, 100%. I was mentioning job descriptions, 90% or maybe 99%, they all sound the same. They all standardize. We all use ChatGPT now. We write them in 3 minutes. They're incredibly detailed. You read job descriptions nowadays and you think, wow, you need to be Superman or Wonder Woman to be able to do this. And it's super standardized and it has this sort of very descriptive coldness about it. Yeah, just describing tasks and standard challenges. And I think I'm one of these people, looking for the human factor. And at the end, you're not only going to take a job because it's slightly better paid, or you're going to have a bit more responsibility. You need more. You need more. With people, you need to really understand what's behind it. Yeah.
I think the sales component, and I'm firmly in your camp, by the way. I 100% agree with what we're saying here. I think it's such a skill that, for whatever reason, people kind of maybe don't view recruitment as sales. But that's my opinion, at least from my perspective. But do you feel what we're talking about here is equally shared across our industry? Do you feel that more people on the internal side of talent acquisition would say their job is sales, or do you think they'll say something different when we're talking about kind of the fundamental skill?
Hopefully, but I don't think any successful recruiter out there doesn't like selling, right? That's we part of the HR family, yeah. In the corporate world, we report to a HR director. I report a CPO, but we kind of different to a HR business partner, right? It's not quite the same. And what makes us recruiters is loving selling and be able to sell. Yeah, specifically on the agency side for sure, but also on the corporate side. Yeah.
Get those no's as more than yeses. I mean, you've got to be thick-skinned to do it on the agency side. I mean, on both sides, don't get me wrong. You guys get just as many no's, I imagine, but we get no's from candidates and clients. So at least you've got the client base already there. You've got your stakeholders.
Yeah, it has pros and cons. Yeah.
I can walk away. You can't. That's the benefit I have.
Exactly. I was going to say that. At the end of the day, what matters for you is having enough clients in order to make a certain number of placements and reach your targets and make sure your company's profitable. We cannot get away from jobs, no matter what, they're not going to get away. So you need to find a solution. You need to find a compromise. If the expectations of the hiring manager are totally unrealistic, if the salary is not realistic, whatever, you need to find a solution. This job is not going to go away. So yeah, that's probably one of the cons. Yeah.
Well, look, although you're saying sales and storytelling, it's kind of hand in hand. We're going to refer to it as storytelling moving forward because that's what we kind of discussed at the beginning. But you've obviously seen both sides, right? You've worked with massive organizations that have origin stories already written for them pretty much. We've got media stories written about them daily. You've got product stories. And I'll find it difficult when you're at Apple for, nearly 5 years, I think, Tesla 3 years, Microsoft, Oracle. When you worked for these businesses, people knew you, right? Good and bad, they knew you. But then on the other hand, you also work for organizations, external and internal, that maybe people don't know, right? And from your own kind of experience, was it harder to try and tell a story where there was a predefined narrative for Apple from the media, for example, or was it harder when, people don't know you?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, it's a lot easier. And these days, where I used to call people and say, "Hey, this is Francois from Apple." Yeah, it's for sure. Yeah, it's a great opener. It's a world brand. It's a global brand. For sure, it helps. You still need to sell this opportunity, though. Yeah, especially if you're one of, I don't know how many employees an Apple has, over 100,000. At the end of the day, every context, it's about the team, the manager, what country, what division you're in. So you still need to sell this and make it appealing, but for sure it makes it easier. Yeah. If you work for a less known company, a no brand, small brand, as we like to describe ourselves, the company I work for right now, it makes it more difficult. But it's part of the skill. You still, it's totally possible.
Okay. So regardless of who we work for, big, small, tiny, mid-size, whatever, right? How can we start that process of actually uncovering what our company's story is? What steps, I guess, did you take when you joined Atoss?
Well, I refer to first what I was told when I was a candidate. And I mean, I've only been 10 months into the company, so it's pretty easy actually to reflect on that and now tell to the candidates I approach what I've been hearing and the reasons why I chose to join this company. But yeah, in a sense, you need to make your story, and I try and coach people in my team to appropriate this story. Like I tell the story probably a different way than people in my team, some of my colleagues will do. So you need to really take time to, list the USPs, list the different elements of the stories, and find the way you feel comfortable yourself to sell it. And as the discussion takes place with the potential candidate, you'll have information about the profile. You'll see what type of personality, what sort of matters to them, and try and find these arguments and let them, come into the conversation to make them want to hear more and enter the interview process.
I love the fact you just shared how you do it is different from your team, because I've fallen trap. I've seen it myself, and I've seen it from people trying to emulate me as well. So we all pitch companies differently, right? You're never going to be carbon copy of somebody else. And I've had it where I've looked up to people and gone, Jesus, like it flows so naturally. Like, how the hell do you do that? And you try and take little bits of them and you try and put it into your own way, and it doesn't work. And actually, my colleague and I, we both work for the same team at the moment, and we both pitch it just slightly differently. Yeah. And it's, it's the same team, slightly different, but it's kind of drawn on what feels more natural to us. So I love the fact that's what you encourage to your team as well. But the USPs, the elements of the team, the company, etc. Before you know it, you're listing 500 standardized, phrases, and they all sound super salesy, right? At that point, when you just start listing off. So how do you decide what's actually important to bring into, let's call it the package of what you're trying to create?
Yes, try and not fall into this trap, exactly what you described. It's like, every company will try and tell you we're the best, we have the best products, we're growing, we want to be top of the world, we want to, everyone says that. You're not going to be approached by a recruiter that says, our product is okay, and actually we have enough growth. We want to, we're actually looking to decrease the size of the business. That's not going to happen. Everyone tells the same. So it's about what really makes, and I think there's a big element of honesty about this. It's not about lying, overstating, because it's not credible at the end of the day. People are not stupid, and you were referring to the human factor. They're talking to an individual. It's like people to people. They want to believe you, and they want someone who's actually convinced, and have the feeling that they're talking to someone who's telling the truth. If you're not convinced yourself, if you haven't made your story and your way to tell it, people will feel it. It's like a bad actor in a film. You don't believe a second into this character, if the actor doesn't put his full heart and emotions into it. I think it's similar here.
Cool. Now I'm going to change my job title on LinkedIn to professional actor.
Yeah, maybe I'll take that back, because that would imply that we're lying and we're just which is not the point.
I get what you mean.
It's about the credibility. Yeah. Definitely.
Once we know the story, and I find what works quite well for me, and even though I'm an external side of things, I always use the word we. So whenever I work with a company, it's always with partners, right? And I've always kind of done that. And I always get to I say always, but there's at least once or twice a week, I'll get to the end of a call with a candidate and I'll say, Aidan, do you work for them? I'm like, no, but I always use we because, it's a team effort. But that's where I want people to feel. I want them to feel that I know so much about the project that, and it works. That's how I see it. But obviously it is slightly different when you're new to a team, you're new to a department, you're new to recruitment in general. It is really difficult to kind of create that fluid pitch or story. So do you have any specific delivery methods that you've adopted or your team have adopted that just work well? We spoke about a few that obviously I've done. I'm happy to share them as well, but I'm just curious to kind of hear kind of what works best for you.
I think it's just being very, very clear about the elements of the stories and the pros and cons. And again, being very honest about this. What makes my company right now different than others? It's not about saying we're better than anyone else, we're better than bigger software company. We have pros and cons, and dear candidates, this is what I have to tell you today. This is really what it is, and these are the reasons why this opportunity is great. Yeah, and these are all the pros of the company I work for.
And do you do a different setup in the sense of if someone's applying directly versus somebody that you've proactively tried to headhunt? Do you have like a different way of bringing this information to the conversation?
Well, if somebody applies, it's a totally different situation, right? I mean, they have applied for a reason, they have researched the company, they have prepared themselves, and they are definitely prepared to sell their story. So for sure, it's totally different, but this is becoming, I think, a big exception. Yeah, specifically, you and I work on the German market mainly. It's a candidate-driven market, similar to other countries in Europe. So I just assume that no good application will come. Yeah, you might get lucky, but in most cases, you really need to be super proactive. You need to be sourcing, and you need to get the candidates, and you need to convince them. I mean, most people on the German market today who have real skills are now looking for jobs. That's the reality. Yeah, they can be picky. Yeah.
I've seen this as well. To be fair, even some of the best candidates, they'll sit there and say, no, just at every job you deliver to them until you find exactly what their why is, what they're specifically looking for, and they'll only move. And there's this one particular person who will only move for a certain size company with this amount of money in the bank account, so to speak, in this industry. And it's like there's 2 companies in the whole Berlin that offer that. It's like so they're one of the 2 companies I'll go to. So but at least
honestly, these are not the candidates you want. Yeah, and this is what makes our job very, very tough, specifically in these market conditions. You still need to be able to dig out the candidates who are, despite the fact that they're not looking for jobs and they're just curious to speak to you. Yeah. But you still need to find out, who will develop this motivation, over the different interview stages, and at the end, who will want to work with you. You don't want to go ahead with candidates who just want 30% increase in salary, and whatever the company is, they don't really care. That's not who you want. These people are not going to help your company get better, bigger.
So someone's applied. You've gone into the conversation. Do you break down, in that first interview, you going straight into the story? Are you going straight into sales mode? Or do you try to uncover information about the person first and then try to kind of adapt what you're going to bring into the conversation based on them?
If they apply, I will mostly go... I'll do a small pitch about the company. I'll open up to questions, because obviously you don't need to sell as much. Yeah. So I'll go pretty much straight away into the testing mode of the candidate, even if it's not that obvious. But I'll open up for questions typically, and I'll say, hey, you've applied, thank you very much. You've seen the job description, you've Googled us, you've read things about us, articles. Typically, I will ask, the first question would be, how can I fill the gaps? What is missing? What can I tell you? I don't think it makes sense to waste 10, 15 minutes to go over the standard pitch.
Yeah.
But it's just like, and to me, it's both an occasion to give valuable information to the candidates, sort of prepare them for the rest, but also to test them. I mean, we've all seen this, but a candidate who has no questions, not sure, right?
Especially if they've applied, that's the bit I always get about.
The only questions they have are very sort of like down to earth, what's the office like? Do you offer these benefits? What are the working hours? You're sort of like, okay, before we get into this, surely there will be some bits missing from what you have seen from the JD or our website. I mean, this does not tell you the whole thing about the context. Yeah, surely there must be other things that are more important. And yeah, when we're down to offer stage, for sure we'll cover this, but not in the first conversation. Yeah.
So they've applied directly. You're going in with, what questions can I answer, fill the gaps, and then, hopefully kind of go down more of a sales pitch that way. But say you've headhunted me. What's kind of the approach that way?
So if I headhunt you, I need to go into the pitching first. Yeah, definitely. And that's what you want to hear from me. You're not looking for a job. I found you on LinkedIn. I've written you a message, hopefully a powerful message, as a topic for itself now, because I think people are, good people are contacted daily, weekly, whatever, on LinkedIn for loads of recruiters and headhunters. So you want to make sure they respond to you. And if you are to that stage, I have a few minutes, whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour maximum. I'm the voice of the company, so I need to make it appealing to you that you want to talk to me further. Yeah, that's the goal of the conversation.
I'd say, what's a powerful message to you?
Go through. Hey, why have I contacted you, and what do I have to sell? In a few words, yeah. This is what the company is about. This is where we're at. These are the pros. This is what I have to offer you, in a sense.
Are you sending that? So you're sending that via like an email or a LinkedIn message? I was referring to that part.
The way I do it, I'm not saying it's the right, but I don't believe personally in very, very long descriptive LinkedIn messages. Yeah, I know some people do it, might work with some candidates. I found out myself that it's not how you get the best response rate, and nowadays you can track everything. My approach is a very, very short message, as short as possible, to say, basically, Eden, I love your profile, very impressive. I have a great opportunity. I would like to speak to you. I mean, not more than that.
Jeez, that is short.
So that's how I do it.
The job title, just straight in. We'll have a chat.
Yes, there will be a job title. There might be something. Okay. Yeah. In some cases, it depends on the job, and obviously you don't approach, let's say, a salesperson the same way that you would approach a financial controller or a Java developer. I might put a link in this saying this is the opportunity, but I make it very, very short and try and sort of like wake the interest.
Yeah.
At the end, the goal of this message is, I want you on a phone, I want you on a Teams call, on a Zoom call. And let's talk people to people. Let me tell you why I contacted you, why I think you're a good match, and let me tell you what makes this opportunity in this company unique. And then you question, and we go into dialogue, and we go into this human interaction.
Yeah, I think that also highlights the difference in how recruitment just can be done, because I do short messages, but the short message is always the second message. So my first message is, and again, I think maybe because I'm an external, and I can't usually share the company's name up front, I have to allude, I have to gauge interest. So I'll either do a video, and then I'll send them a link, and then I can track how many people have viewed that video versus how many people I've messaged, which kind of goes into more of this personal interaction. Or I'll be very descriptive about the funding, the company, the tasks, etc. To the point where if they say to me, "Can you send me more information?" I'm like, "Well, not really. No, that's pretty much." We can go through the nuances about culture, but let's have a chat. We obviously do short messages. And my colleague on the other side, he always sends the company name. He always sends their job description. He sends as if he's working, like I said, always as an internal employee. We all do it kind of slightly differently, but obviously the outcome is the aim.
I mean, you're in a slightly different position, right? You work on the agency side, so I think the expectations of the candidate would be different than talking to a corporate recruiter. Yeah. We have this luxury of being in the place, being in the company. So I think they probably want to hear straight, what it's about, what is the company about, and you're in it. So agency is you'll probably have a bit more of selling, and at the end, candidates who speak to you, who are interested, who you are able to present to the company. At the end, what really matters to them is speak to the first person in the company to really find out, okay, what is this about? Yeah.
And that's why I was asking about how do you jump into those calls, because I think I mentioned it when we spoke the other day. I always spend 10, 15 minutes just speaking to Francois. Tell me about yourself, your situation. Regardless of the company, regardless of who they are, just ignore them. Tell me what you want, and then I can tell you very quickly yes or no. And if it's a no, I know what you want for the future. And if it's a yes. I know exactly the selling points I need to go to. So that story, I can then adjust back to what you want. So you want stability, I'll talk about money and stability and tenure. But you want, projects, challenging projects, I'll talk about the technologies, what's happening in the next 12 months. So you can kind of spin, right? Sales. So you take what they tell you and just package it back up. But I get the luxury.
Absolutely. And it's similar as a corporate recruiter. I think it's sort of entrenched, and as you speak to the candidates and you hear the questions, this gives you clues about what matters to them.
Yeah.
Why do they talk to you? Why are they curious or open? And you can adapt, what you tell them and try and match what they want to hear, what matters to them. Is it all about career progression? Is it more about security? I mean, this is certainly something that personally I find we hear more and more. Yeah, people are getting a bit worried about the economic development. Even in the tech world, we used to be in a world where it was just about growth.
We were untouchable for years.
And for the last couple of years, after the first big layoffs starting within big tech, even people working for this company are slightly worried now. And I hear the words stability, security, specifically in the German context. Yeah, it's a bit of a cultural thing as well. I hear this more and more. This is certainly talking about the story, about the company I work for at the moment. These are definite USPs. We're a very stable business. We are very, very careful about how we plan our growth. We also a highly profitable business. So this is something I will always mention, and that always is, well received, and probably more credible than, hey, hyper growth, this and that, we're going to conquer the world and we'll be the best.
And you're saying you're profitable, so.
Exactly. At the end, it's a fact, it's down there. It's, we're on the stock exchange, so it's all documented, it's all reported, and you can track it down the last 20 years. So, definitely come up with that one. That would be part of the story here.
I want to finish on one final point. I just want to take you back because you mentioned obviously you've been with Atoss for the last 10 months, and you've said you're using the experience what they shared to you in the interview process. But of course, you being told one thing and experiencing one thing are two different things, right? So how can we then blend these two together? And we might have been in a position where the company might have made layoffs recently. They might not have the greatest environment in certain regards. They might have bad Glassdoor reviews. They're not things that you genuinely expected when you joined, right? Not saying this is Atoss. I'm just saying in general. So how can we blend those where we're not lying to the candidate, we're not overselling the opportunity to them, but we're still creating a story that matters?
Several things what you said. I mean, first, Atoss, it's quite easy because what I found was what I thought it would be, what I was told, so there was no big gap between what I heard during the interview, what I felt meeting the people, and what I see today. I think in the case what you mentioned, companies that might not have great reviews and going through difficulties, and at the end, it's about being honest. And if the company struggles or having challenges, it doesn't mean that it's uniform through the whole company. I think the situation is very, very different from one department to another, one team, one function to another, you know? And at the end, what makes an opportunity great is also the team you work for, who's your boss, what sort of function you're going to do. Yeah. I mean, you can have the worst job in the world in the best company because your boss is not great, because the function is not being well regarded within the company, because whatever. And on the opposite, you have great opportunities in companies that are really struggling, for instance, financially. Yeah, because this particular team is strong, is needed. You have a great boss, you have a great mission. So at the end, it could turn out to be something fantastic.
So it's about reading what's that particular situation and adapting around that instead of just not tarnishing, but painting the entire organization as a certain thing. But it's about understanding what's happening, why, and then trying to find what's the best route to
totally. When you pitch a candidate, when you speak to a candidate, you know, you want to try and picture yourself into this job, and you want to really understand as a candidate, what is going to be my mission? What is the context? What is my boss like? What are the expectations for this position? Why should I expect? That's what you need to understand as early as possible in the process, in order to say thanks, no thanks, or let's talk further.
Nice. Well, Francois, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I love the topic of storytelling and selling. I think I agree 100%. It's the fundamentals of what we do. And I think if recruiters can nail that part down and they can create a compelling story and they understand the element of selling, then it's purely just down to nurturing and being open, communicative to candidates. You've done the hard part. That is the hard part, is getting someone there. And then it's just basically making sure that the process is smooth after that. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. Obviously, you can go enjoy the rest of your birthday. But if somebody does want to contact you and discuss further, get to know you and your team a bit more, get to know Atoss a bit more, where's the best place that they can find you?
Like you, I'm on LinkedIn most of the day. So
I'm yet to find a recruiter that doesn't say LinkedIn.
We live in LinkedIn, right? At the end, yeah. So
nice. Well,
that's probably the best way. Yeah.
As normal. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Eden. Pleasure. Bye bye.